job isn't to gather a crowd. Our job is to help people make disciples. And so we want to really lead with vision and help our staff create a new and exciting pathway to the future. And so at Auxano, we have a metaphor and an idea that we have used for over a decade now to help churches think through what it means to be focused on the vision of Christ rather than the provisions of being part of a church. And we think of this question, we call it the soul x-ray question. And if you've read Church Unique, or if you've gone through one of our processes, you have seen, you've heard some of these ideas before, but now is a helpful reminder. We think about this soul x-ray question. If God gave us a soul x-ray at the church doors, as we're walking in the doors, we can see why people are calling our church their church home. Why do they love our church? Now, this isn't why do they love Jesus or love God? It's why do they love our church? What is attached? What's the attachment there? And of course, you can ask your folks this question and you'll get many answers, but most of those answers can be categorized in 4 or 5 different ways. The first one is place. There are some folks that they were married or they were baptized in the church, or there's a certain spot that they sit at in the pew every Sunday because there's something about the place. They geolocate the work of God in our hearts. And so something amazing happens. We want to return to that place. And that's something that we should respect. Abraham builds altars. Also, some folks are attached to personality. And this is that attachment to a pastor or a worship leader or someone on the platform. And Lord knows we all want to be the best preacher, worship leader that we can be, the one he's called us to be. And sometimes people get attached to that. Programs, great programs that make disciples who make disciples. Our folks sometimes come and that's the attachment. That's the thing they'll tell us, man, Pastor, I love your preaching, but what's really important to me is my Sunday school class or my life group. That's the thing that binds me here. And finally, not to move through these too quickly, but finally, there's a lot of churches where people and the friendships and the folks they get to sit next to in church or behind. And sometimes these are extended families. It's the grandparents and the grandkids getting together to worship together multi-generationally. It can sometimes family or friends as family. Sometimes it's the people that our folks are most attached to. And we think of these as the provisions that God has given to the church. These are the necessary things that we need to do church. You can't have church without these. But what can happen is if these become the primary thing that people are attached to, it can become the thing that people protect, the thing that people preserve, the thing that really identifies why they call this their church home. And we call that a lower room identity. And this, in a post, as we move out of the pandemic, we can think of even adding a 5th P, the past. This idea that we want to recreate what we used to have. And that can become an overwhelming, compelling, just kind of guttural vision that we may not even articulate, but success looks like recapturing what we used to have. And as leaders, that should scare us to death because we probably can't recreate what we used to have. We can create a new norm. We can create something that's new and better, something that's more effective. But the days that we used to have are probably gone. And so we have to think and lead from what we call the upper room. This is God's unique calling. When God dreams about the future of our church and where we're headed, what does he see for us? We think about this vision frame, this visionary identity. What's our mission? What are our values? What is our ministry strategy? How are we measuring success? And so we think of this as your vision as being something that the provision is subordinated to. To go back to C.S. Lewis in his book, The Four Loves, he talks about that heart is a garden that grows our loves, and no man can love God, can love something too much unless he loves it more than God. loves it more than Jesus. In our church context, it's great to love the provisions of the church unless we love it more than the mission of the church. And if we do, that thing then can become a spiritual stronghold. Suddenly, the place or our attachment to the preacher or the worship leader or attached to the programs or even the people can become more important than the vision and the great commission that Jesus has given to us. It's that proverbial person who sits in the pew and they come into church on Sunday morning and they see a guest in their spot and they tell the guest to leave, or they tell the guest. That's an example. As hard and frustrating as that can be, we lose sight of what's most important. And so what we want to do is we want to connect our people to the upper room. We want to build a staircase that calls our people up to the upper room. And as a staff, we want to make sure that our staff and we have our eye on that ball, that we are advancing the right things, that we are reminding people, hey, we're not here to recreate the past or recapture what we used to have. We're here to move into a better future where disciple making is the norm, where disciple making is the expectation, where disciple making is how we measure success.